The House comes now to questions for oral answer. Question number 1 in the name of Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does he stand by his promise to New Zealanders that, quote, the construction of the new convention centre will not cost taxpayers or ratepayers a cent? If not, why not?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I stand by my statement in relation to a $402 million convention centre as agreed on the 5th of July 2013. Following the completion of preliminary design work by SkyCity, which includes enhancements to previous designs, SkyCity notified us that the cost of the centre would be higher than the agreed $402 million cost. The government is now negotiating with SkyCity on a range of options, which include holding them to the original agreement of a $402 million convention centre.
Order. Supplement. Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Why did he promise New Zealanders a free convention centre when he knew that clause 11.47 of the SkyCity deal says, quote, either party may pay the other cash, quote, if construction costs change?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, well, the contract's been in the public domain for a very long period of time and anyone can read that. But the government's preferred position is that SkyCity completes a convention centre for $402 million. The contract has always been there and the parties are free to walk away from it if they want to.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Why is he talking about giving SkyCity more money when his own Finance Minister told a select committee today that he would rather walk away from the deal?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
What we have confirmed is what we know, which is that there's an agreement to build a convention centre for $402 million, and that's the government's preferred position. What we also know is that on the 19th of December 2014, SkyCity lodged their resource consent application, and they indicated at the time that the construction costs were larger than what they'd thought, $470 to $530 million. SkyCity clearly indicated there's a hole. The government's preferred position is they build it for $402 million.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Whose advice will he take on this issue? Bill English, who's trying to save the budget, or Stephen Joyce, who's trying to save his backside?
Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I don't like to choose between the children, so I'll probably take both of their advice.
Supplementary.
What about the vegetables?
Order. Supplementary question. Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In light of the huge benefits to SkyCity from this deal, including a 28-year exclusive licence extension and 230 more pokies, why has he failed to keep his promise to New Zealanders for a free convention centre that isn't an eyesore?
Well, Mr Speaker,
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We haven't failed to keep our promise, and in fact, actually, the member seems to be making the point that we have been making for a very long period of time, which is the preference of the government is to build a convention centre that actually has no cost from the Crown. Interestingly enough, even though Labor publicly come and say that in this House, it doesn't stop them going off to their box for entertainment or quietly behind the bike sheds telling them they support it.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Why won't he be straight with New Zealanders for once and just admit the deal's blown up in his face?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The member is getting a little tiring with those sorts of things. The reality is that the government's preferred options of $402 million convention centre is built. The government's preference is that there is no money to be put in. The SkyCity has indicated that they would prefer to build a convention centre that's a bit bigger with slightly different designs, and they're claiming that there are escalation costs that are slightly higher during the time it's taken place. The government, therefore, is having those discussions, but at the core of the whole argument, the question that has to be asked is New Zealand better if it has an international convention centre in Auckland? In my view, the answer to that is yes.
How do you spell free?
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
In light of that answer, will he rule out giving more money to Sky City for the convention centre?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm not going to conduct negotiations for the convention centre here in the House, but what I can say is the government's preferred position is that Sky City pay for the convention centre at $402 million. But we'll see how that goes, and assuming that we get there at $402 million, I look forward to the Labor Party supporting the deal.
Question order. Question number 2, Jamie Lee Ross.
Mr Speaker.